Alright guys, what is going on? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down, ranking the best campaign objectives on Facebook from best to worst. Now, I'll be using the S tier list that everybody uses because it makes sense. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because choosing a campaign objective, particularly if you've never used the meta ads dashboard, can be extremely overwhelming. And there's a lot of hearsay. A lot of people have different recommendations for different types of objectives. But what I've found after spending over $7 million over the past 6 years on 800 different clients in a lot of different varying niches, that there are very specific campaign objectives that work well depending on your business. So I'm going to give you context for each of these campaign objectives and when and how to use them. So with that in mind, let's jump into the training. Okay, so we are going to start with the schedule campaign objective. Now, schedule is actually under leads. So if you're going into Facebook Ads Manager and you start a new campaign, so what I might do is quickly just go into Ads Manager and give you an idea. I click create. You want to actually choose leads, okay? And then you hit continue. And then when you go to the campaign objective here, you can see it's leads, but then you go into the ad set level and you want to go to website. And then under website, you want to choose your conversion event. Now the conversion event is schedule. Okay, so that is a schedule campaign, just so you're aware. So why would you do a schedule campaign? Now, if you run a business where you need booked calls, I would say that the schedule campaign is the most powerful. And the reason is you're spending money to directly get booked calls. So instead of getting a lead, which is potentially a 4 out of 10 of the way to actually becoming a client, you're getting a booking, which is like 6 out of 10 on the way of becoming a client. So you're getting a much better lead that comes through and you're just getting booked calls. So instead of you having to chase the lead, book in the call, it just works really well. Now, you can set this up as a custom conversion, but you don't need to. I would just set it up as a scheduled conversion and you'll be completely fine. Now, if you're wanting to get clients through a book a call funnel, you do high ticket services, even if you do like local business services, like you're a mortgage broker or you're a tradie or a roofer, schedule is good because you're just going to get booked calls. So I'd put that in S tier, top of the list. So the next one is a traffic campaign. Now, a traffic campaign is when you go back to Ads Manager, and I'll give you like a quick example, and we go and we'll just create one just for the sake of going through the process. So we click create and we click traffic. Now, traffic used to be kind of like a good thing to do back in the day when people would run like an e-com brand and you wanted to try and season the pixel. But I have found that there are just less and less good use cases for the traffic campaign. I can't think of why you'd run a traffic campaign anymore, to be honest. Like if you're wanting to get leads, you would do a lead campaign. If you're wanting to get book calls, you would do a schedule campaign. The only reason maybe you'd use a traffic campaign is if you want to send a lot of traffic to your webpage and then get that data on the pixel to retarget to them, then that's how you do it. And people like Frank Kern, if you've heard of him, he's a really good advertiser, tend to use kind of weird retargeting like that. But for most businesses, traffic is kind of a waste of money unless you're really doing some kind of, really tricky retargeting thing. So I'll put that in a C tier. Now, the next one I'm going to do is an engagement. Now, engagement is interesting because engagement, if you're going into the dashboard, engagement actually is using Messenger and Instagram. So this is where you do a DM campaign. So when you do a DM campaign, you don't do leads, you actually do engagement, right? So DM ads is engagement, and that changes things, right? Because DM ads and even WhatsApp DM ads actually work really well, and Messenger ads work really well depending on the type of lead that you're looking for. So I would rank engagement kind of before I rank it. The thing with engagement is you can use DM ads for consumer-facing type of brands. So if you're a brand and you work with people who want to do a course, right? They want to purchase a course to learn how to trade, or they want to do an e-commerce course. They want to learn how to do dropshipping, or things of that nature. Engagement is really good. So what I want you to think about, engagement equals a DM ad. So coaching and stuff like that, it can work really well too. The one caveat that I'd say is you need to have a really dialed in appointment setting process. So when the DM comes into your funnel, you need to be able to have a clear cut process that you take them through to actually turn into a client. So we used to run ads for, businesses doing a lot of revenue with this. A lot of people swear by it. I don't do it for our business too much, but we have done it before and it has worked. I would put it into A tier. Now, the other thing I'd mention with the DM ads engagement is that it lets you really get people kind of indoctrinated into your content, because Instagram is kind of like a personal page. People get to see all of your content, so they come to know, like, and trust you more, which is a really important aspect of marketing. So I would, it's a close S tier, but not quite, because I think there are better options. It is still really, really strong. Okay, the next ad campaign is awareness. Now, awareness is where you want to reach as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, whoever it is. So the way that Facebook's algorithm works is they basically know who's in market based on the activity or the actions that they take on the platform. So when a user has shown significant interest in a certain type of product, then what's going to happen is Facebook will actually show that show similar brands to that person, and they're essentially in market. So Facebook basically has so many little fingerprints of what the person does on the landing pages, the e-commerce brands that they visit. They know when someone's like in a buying cycle. Now, what awareness is you're essentially jet blasting everybody. Like you're spamming everybody with your ads. So you're going to get not really high intent people, but it is a good way to try and get your brand out there for the cheapest possible cost per impression. So this is getting a little bit nerdy, but cost per impression is essentially where how much it costs you to show your ad on 1,000 feeds. So if there are 1,000 phones and your ad shows up on each of those phones, the cost per impression is the cost of doing that, the cost of showing your ad on 1,000 phones. Okay. So awareness is going to give you a low cost per impression, but you're not going to make any money from it, right? You're not going to make any money from it. There's no capture mechanism to get the lead. Like you might get people calling you if you put your number on the ad, but you're not utilizing the algorithm that well. It is a good way to collect data, especially if you're running a video ad on an awareness campaign, so you can see who's actually watched the amount of video and retarget them. So I would put this at probably a C/B tier. I'd probably put it at B because it does have its benefit in terms of collecting data and in terms of getting your brand name out there. With awareness, you'd actually usually partner that with a lead gen campaign because it will kind of feed the pixel more and kind of help Facebook get more data cheaply based on your brand. So the next one is purchase. Now, purchase is where if you're selling any type of product or service, you send the person to the page to buy the thing. So this is like the top tier conversion event for an e-commerce company, right? But it doesn't have to be just e-commerce company. So like my wife's business, she runs a ceramic brand and she does classes. So she does classes in her local area. We get people paying for the classes on her webpage, and it's not a super direct response like webpage. And we just run a conversion pixel for purchase. We run a purchase event, and it crushes like 6 ROAS. So if you know advertising, you know that 6 ROAS is like god tier level. But that's a small scale of ad spend. So don't think that is like it's millions of dollars. It's small scale, but purchase can work really well if you're doing digital products, if you're doing local classes, if you're doing e-commerce brands. Purchases work really well, so they would be in S tier. The next one is lead form. Now, there's a lot to say about the old and trusty lead form. I know some people swear by it. If you have really clever questions, you add images in there, you got all this tricky stuff going on. I have found that the way that lead forms kind of integrate, or the way that lead forms relate to the algorithm, is you can sometimes get a lot of trash in lead forms. So even if you've got a really highly optimized lead form, sometimes the leads that come through are not that great. Because you're just kind of getting people that are filling out a form. Like, even if the form's really good, I think the way that Facebook works is it's algorithm based. So really, you just want to tell the pixel what you want and it's going to get it for you, right? So if you just want to name it a number and someone to call, lead forms can work, and people have used lead forms really successfully. And there are ways to make it good. I still think though, that if you're wanting booked calls for your business, I would go with a schedule campaign. And I don't see why you would do a lead form over a schedule campaign unless you were selling like a lead magnet. Even then, I would still use a landing page. I wouldn't use a lead form. So one distinction to make is with the lead forms, you're not sending people to a page. You're keeping them on platform. So you tend to get a higher conversion rate just because of that. There's less friction. But at the same time, the quality does tend to be lower. I know that Alex Hormozy doesn't like lead forms. There's a guy here in Australia called Revel Lachlan who's actually a really good advertiser who loves lead forms. So it's a bit of a moot point, but I would put it in A tier. Okay, now we've got one more. These ones are just duplicates. So the last one is landing page views. And I'm just going to put this down at E, because I've got to put something there, right? So landing page views are kind of pointless. Like, you could do it to warm the pixel, to get the algorithm kind of juiced up, but I would still just go straight for like a purchase campaign or a schedule campaign. I think landing page views don't really make much sense. They're kind of like an in-between conversion objective that are not necessary. And so really, if you're a business that's wanting to get book calls, I would go for leads or schedule through a landing page. Or if you're an e-commerce brand wanting to get purchases, I'll go for purchase. You've got some other trickier type of conversion objectives like engagement and lead form for DM ads and lead forms, which do work. And then you've got stuff like awareness if you want to get your brand out there for cheap CPMs. And then traffic and landing page views are kind of redundant. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. If you want help with running your ads and actually getting leads and sales coming through, the first link on the description, you can actually book in a call with me and I'll take you through how to get it all set up. If you want to learn how to run ads yourself and build your own agency, there's a second link there that you can join. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Chat with you soon. Cheers.